This gives me incredible pleasure. I was born and raised in Rochester. I had cousins go to Gates Chili, Lou Gramm's alma mater, and was a gigantic fan as a teenager and young man growing up listening to the music of Foreigner in Rochester. And this, Lou, is no bias whatsoever because of our Rochester connection. But for me, you're one of the best all-time pure rock singers out there. And I hope you hear that enough, because if you don't, you do, you deserve it. And thanks for coming on and being in the basement with me this morning.
Well, it's my pleasure. I don't hear things exactly where you put them, but I hear enough to feel my worth, you know?
Yeah. Well, maybe you've heard it so much over the years that it's just becoming, yeah, I know.
No, it certainly would never become blasé.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this Saturday night, Kodak Center, Rochester, Ticketmaster with your tickets. Talk about playing this show in Rochester and how important it is for you to play in front of your hometown crowd.
It's very important. I haven't played in the Rochester area for about 8 or 9 years. At one point, we were doing Band on the Bricks. We were doing Lilac Festival. We did something downtown. I can't remember what the name of that event was called, but we were semi regularly in Rochester performing. But suddenly, I think what it was is the band was getting more and more popular, and our prices were going up for performing. And when it came time for events in Rochester to ask us to perform, they were still offering us the old prices, and we told them we don't play for that anymore. That we're up in this range now. Could you get closer to that? And they said that they couldn't. So it just ended up that for 8 or 9 years we were void in the Rochester music scene.
And now you're back, and it's so exciting. And what are the folks going to see on Saturday night? Will there be some storytelling? Will there be obviously some solo material and all the bands you've played with over the years? What are they going to see and hear?
Well, they're going to see the big Foreigner hits. Sprinkled in will be my hits from my solo albums, and there'll be a little patter about the history of the song or whatever, and I think it'll be an entertaining night.
For sure. For people that don't know, Foreigner was absolutely enormous. 50 million-ish records, first 5 albums, top 5 or better, which is sick. 14 top 20 hits, 47 singles released over the years. The first band since the Beatles to have their first 8 singles in the top 20. I mean, that is absurd. That is so ridiculously amazing, Lou. And I hope you're super proud of those accomplishments, because you absolutely should be.
I'm extremely proud of them, and some of those accomplishments I hadn't heard before. The one about the Beatles with the singles and stuff. That's relatively new to me, and I'm stunned and very proud.
I have a lot of Foreigner music now in my phone. I also have a turntable. I have a small vinyl collection, as I know that's become a thing these days.
Mm-hmm.
The first album I ever had was CSNY Deja Vu, and that was a gift from my uncle. But I think the very first, maybe the second album, I think the first album I ever bought at Gold Circle was Kiss Destroyer, who
you're going back now. Gold
yeah,
Circle.
yeah, who you knew, and I want to ask you about Kiss in a moment, but that, and then I think my second album I bought, more appropriately, I think, was Double Vision at the House of Guitars. That's where I got it. And I'll never forget leafing through the vinyl and picking it out and said, this is it. This is the one I want. And I know
was that a new record at the time?
It was a new record at the time. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. And I know this comes up a lot with friends and family members on occasion when there's talking about music. Well, what was the first record you bought? What was the first concert you went to? So I'll ask you that. What was the first record you bought that you can remember? And then after that, what was the first concert you ever attended? And I know you grew up in a musical family, so these might be not what people are expecting, I'm assuming.
I think the first single I bought was Louie Louie by the Kingsmen.
Wow.
And I think the first record I bought was Meet the Beatles.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How much of an influence were they on you in terms of songwriting and performing and all of that?
Incredible influence. I naturally took to the way the song sounded and the flavor of the instrumentation with the vocals, and it was tough without being metal. And they were all very good musicians, I thought, and they left a lasting impression on me. And even more so when I saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show when I was 11 or 12 years old. You know, they sounded very, very good for being put in that situation, which was not conducive to a rock band sounding good, but they sounded great.
As did you.
And I
So
continued to be a fan over the years, and you know, my scope of admiration grew to a lot of different groups and different flavors of rock.
so let's move on to what your first concert was that you can recall.
Trying to think.
While you're doing that, I'll tell you mine, and I'm not embarrassed by it, but I was cheap. I was a kid. I had no money, and for $5 and a can of soup, I got to see Eddie Money and Saga at the Rochester War Memorial. That was my first concert.
I got to see the Rolling Stones
Wow, no
at the
kidding.
Rochester War Memorial in 1965.
Oh man.
And I went there against my parents' wishes. I asked them if I could go to the concert, and they told me absolutely not. And I started to complain, and they sent me to my room. So I went up to my room and changed into my best going out to rock duds. I ran down the stairs and ran out the door and ran down the street and to a main road and started hitchhiking to the War Memorial. 15 years old. And the first car that stopped was going to the same place, so I caught a ride with them. I met my friends there outside of the War Memorial. We had tickets. We went in. We saw the concert, which was cut short by the police chief in Rochester, who got up on stage and took Jagger's mic off the stand and told the audience that we were not behaving like ladies and gentlemen, and that if we didn't change our attitude towards the performers, that the concert would be over. At that point, somebody way back at the end of the hall threw something spinning in the air, and it ended up being a pack of gum, the old style pack of gums, and it hit the police chief right in the eye. And he went backwards and almost fell down. The other policeman around him caught him, and he got up, and there was a little blood coming out of his eye, and he said, "This concert is over." And it was actually about 2/3 done. We had just heard Satisfaction, and there were still more great songs to come, but he cut the concert short because we weren't acting like little ladies and gentlemen. So the girl that I was with was a Brian Jones fan, and we ran out to the alleyway where the limo was waiting, and the Stones ran out of the War Memorial and got in the car, and just before the limo pulled away, she broke through security and jumped on the back of the trunk. Well, with her feet on the bumper, and she was hugging the trunk. And the car, the driver stepped on her a little bit, and the back end went down, and she fell back off of the car and onto the ground and bumped her head. And she was dazed there, and the car screeched to a stop. And who came out to see if she was all right? Brian Jones.
No way.
Yes, and he asked her if she was all right. I think he gave her a kiss on the cheek and helped her up and stuff, and then went back to the car and they left. And you know, I was trying to talk to her a little later, but but her feet were so far off the ground that I couldn't even talk to her. She was up in the air, you know.
No selfies back then, but
No, no,
the
no.
memory resonates 60 years later. What an incredible story.
Yeah,
With,
it was unbelievable to be there.
tell me about Kiss, because when you knew Kiss early on, were they considered just a novelty, or did people take them seriously, or was it like a little bit of a combination of two?
I think they were fairly well established by that time. That they were, you know, taken very seriously, and the costumes and everything. It was a whole package, and you know, the show that we played with them in Black Sheep was packed to the rafters, and it was a terrific show. We opened for them, and we got an encore. Now, usually the opening act is not allowed to take their encore, but we thanked the audience, and we were coming off stage, and Kiss's tour manager says, "Go answer your encore." So we went out, we played one more song, and that was awesome. And
So,
then the guys in the band and I stayed and watched the Kiss show, and we went home. There were, I think, five of us in a Pontiac station wagon, and we got home. I went to bed at about 5:30 in the morning. I got a call from one of our roadies, who told us that the truck slipped on the ice on the thruway and went off the road and tipped over.
oh man, and obviously there was equipment, I'm assuming, in that truck, and
Every bit of our equipment.
oh my gosh,
And,
wow.
yeah, and the truck was towed off the thruway to a gas station, and that's where we picked up the crew. Myself and the bass player Bruce Sturgeon got back in the wagon and drove all the way, somewhere between Albany and Syracuse, to pick those guys up, because it was Christmas Eve that the concert was.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure everybody was home for Christmas.
And okay, obviously, yeah.
When we picked them up, we tried to get the back door open so we could assess the damage, and the door went up about 6 inches and then stuck.
Oh man.
So the day after Christmas, a couple of us went back to where the truck was and asked the people at the gas station to open the door for us. And they somehow pushed things around a little bit and forced it open. And we could see that I'd say 80% of the equipment was destroyed beyond use.
Wow. From there, obviously, you go into Foreigner, and your first album just absolutely takes off right out of the chute. I mean, it was huge. Sometimes you hear stories from performers when they first put out a record that it was the greatest thing ever when I heard my song on the radio for the first time. Did you have that moment? I mean, was there that chance that you were maybe in Rochester listening to Magic 92 or WCMF or whatever the rock station was at the time, when you heard fill in the blank song from that debut album, you're like, oh my God, we're on the radio? Did you have that moment?
Well, absolutely. I was living in Westchester County, so I was most of the time outside of New York.
Right.
But when I came back to Rochester to visit, hearing the song for the first time on Rochester radio was stunning. And you know, the DJ, it might have been oh geez, Mike Melody or Tommy Thomas from the old WSAY,
Oh wow.
and they gave it a great build up, you know, breaking balls as they always do, and it was terrific. Now, the first time I heard it in New York, Dennis Elliott, the drummer, and I were driving in to New York City to rehearse for the tour, and the DJ on WNEW announced it, saying it was a new band, half Brit, half American, and it's their debut album, and I could hear the opening chords. It feels like the first time in the background, and so that's the first time we've heard it on radio, and Dennis had to pull over because he was losing control of the car. So we had to
Wow.
pull off the road and just park and listen to the song.
That's cool, man. That is so
It
awesome.
was very cool.
Yeah. Um, Tell me, of all your hits, what was the song that maybe surprised you with its success? A song that maybe you didn't necessarily love, but for some reason just took off? Did you have one or more than one of those songs in your catalog that would fit that bill?
I have to think about that for a second. I know the singles were picked very carefully
Mm-hmm.
from our choice, and the record company had to approve of it. Maybe the damage is done,
Okay.
which was a pretty strong hit. I think that was off the first album, and it's a very unusual song. It's not a hard rock song, but it has a good strong beat. It's got an attitude to it, and towards the middle of the song, it gets harder, and there's a great guitar solo in it, and it just is a very different song, but it was a hit, bona fide hit.
Do you have a favorite Foreigner song?
Um, that's a little tough. They're all like your children,
Right.
You
Yeah.
have a bigger child. I don't know. You can't really. But I guess if I had to pick I don't know. I think I would say Jukebox Hero
Yeah.
was my favorite overall. Yeah, it was the most fun to play. That's for sure.
Who is this again? I'm sorry for the sort of hard questions I'm throwing at you, but who is the one person that people would know, the viewers would know, that maybe called you or texted you or sent you some sort of correspondence or maybe said it to your face that you never thought would have been a fan of your music? In other words, like, let's just say hypothetically, Paul McCartney or something came up to you and said, Lou, I have been such a fan. Your band is great. I mean, who is that? Is there one person who you never would have suspected was a fan of Foreigner that came out and literally told you, I love your band?
Paul Rogers,
Wow. I wrote him down as one of my favorite
free,
vocalists ever.
free and Bad Company.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, and I was a huge fan of his for years before Foreigner came to be, and he had a fair influence on my style as I was a young singer, So,
For sure.
we have played a few shows with him over the years, and I was able to go backstage and meet him and his wife and have a meal with them, and we talked and we did a lot of laughing. And then before we parted ways, he let me know that he had been a big fan right from the beginning out.
The cool thing is watching established, hugely successful musicians, singers, songwriters like yourself be fans of other peers of theirs. I think that's so awesome. It just speaks to your humility and the love of what you do. And I just think that's fantastic. You even mentioned, you are fans of people in. Okay, are you a fan of Taylor Swift? Gotta ask.
I think her music is pretty good. I'm not a big fan of her. It's not for me to judge how she conducts her life, but I think it's a little bit of overkill on the publicity.
Well, I mean, I guess in 2023, everything is at this point, right?
That's true.
Yeah. I mean,
So
with
it's not
social,
for me to judge.
yeah, with social media and all of that. Um, my favorite songs, not that you care, Rev on the Red Line, largely in part because it does have the Rochester references,
Absolutely, it does, yeah.
right? And that Head Knocker, and that was Yesterday. Probably my three favorite, aside from the hits. I mean, the hits are all fantastic, love them all, but those are my three favorite Foreigner songs for sure.
A little bit understated, but awesome just the same, I think.
Yeah. I know you got to run. I know you got to be someplace, and I know you're getting set for the show on Saturday. Obviously, I have to ask you about it's the elephant in the room, and I know you get asked about it a million times. But knowing the accomplishments that I stated earlier, there is that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing looming out there, right? And I know a lot of people say, well, Foreigner's not in because you weren't a critic's darling, but the stats kind of point to why you should be in. If you didn't have those stats, people wouldn't love you. People loved what you did for a long time, and still you're not in. Are you still a little chapped by that, or have you kind of gotten over it and moved on? And if you get in, it is what it is.
I think it bothered me when our peers were getting in and we were kind of shunned. But as time's gone by, I've grown to accept it. I don't think it's necessarily the way I would have scripted all that, but you know, you have disappointments in life, and that's a disappointment, but it doesn't change the way I live or anything. So if
Yeah,
it
for sure.
happens someday, that'd be wonderful. But if it doesn't happen, my life is still good. You
Your life.
know, Mick and I were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and I think 2013 or 2014, and that was a great honor. At that celebration, we saw an incredible amount of rock singers and guitar players and people who write the big hits for the artists. It was a great party, great celebration, and it was very big honor to be accepted in that club.
Absolutely. I mean, I have hours of questions to ask you. We don't have enough time. So hopefully sometime again, we'll be able to do this and catch up, because it was absolutely, as I mentioned, thrilling to talk to you and meet you finally for the first time. All my years in media, never had, and being from Rochester, never having met you. This was absolutely awesome, Lou. Have a great show on Saturday night. And like I said, I hope to do this again. And if you're watching this, please go into whatever music app you have, and look up Foreigner and listen to their music, because you can do it for hours and you're going to know every single song you touch when you listen to that. Again, Lou, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, and best of luck in everything going forward. And
thanks so much. I enjoyed the interview, and you do a great job.
Thank you, man. Thanks to Bobby and Tony for making this happen as well. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your show Saturday.
Thanks. Take care.
You got it.